Hi, I'm Christina, astrology coach at Heart Horizon Astrology. Now, unless you have been living underneath a rock, you will know that we are moving into eclipse season. And this kicks off with our solar eclipse, which is a new moon in the sign of Leo. It's at 20 degrees and it happens on the 12th of August. And where I am in the United Kingdom, it will take place at 6:38 p.m. That's British summer time. But wherever you are in the world, please do check that exact time for your location. Now, if you have a natal chart already, woohoo! Keep it with you as I'm talking. Take a look where 20 degrees of Leo falls in your chart. It's always really useful to see if it's impacting any of your planets or points and what house it falls into. If you don't have one, then you can come on over to my website, hearthorizonastrology.com, create a natal chart and pop in your details there and it will create one for you. So, a past friend of mine used to say with disconcerting regularity, I don't want to adult today. And if you said that does sound particularly Leo to me, then you would be right. He has Sun, Mars and Venus all in the sign of Leo. So over the years, a slew of love affairs, the very passionate, fiery temperament, a real goofy grin. He looks like a very cute doggy. And this daily gripe where he tells me, oh no, I guess I need to put on my big boy pants today to go to work. He has a really, really big heart. It's always very open. He often tells me it gets abused and battered. Bless him. He's also very much into music production. He creates a lot of different tracks, mainly drum and bass, which is not my jam, but that's what he likes to do. And so in so many ways, he is very, very typically Leo, or the qualities that we would associate with Leo. And I want you to keep in mind some of these qualities of Leo, and I'm going to go into a bit more detail later on because it's an eclipse, obviously, which heightens everything. At the same time, it's in a trine, a very easy flowing aspect to Saturn, which is in the sign of Aries. We also have Neptune, which is still in retrograde and will be till the 12th of December. At the same time, the nodal axis has moved back into 29 degrees of Leo and Aquarius, and the 29, it's in a very wide conjunction to this new moon at 20 degrees. Some astrologers wouldn't count it, but you know, as it's an eclipse, it may be felt a little bit. And then we have this fascinating triangle, which is called a wedge aspect also, which involves Venus, Neptune, and the apex planet of Uranus. So I'm going to talk about those in a moment. And I want to start off talking a little bit more about the qualities and the archetype and the psychology of Leo. So we have 12 houses in astrology, 12 little segments. And Leo rules the sun and rules over the 5th house, which is the final house of self-development. And so this gives Leo this kind of real emphasized natural confidence. Now, what I've noticed with Leos is the confidence is very much an outer foil. It may not be completely felt on the inside, but they will have you believe that they are hugely confident and can do anything, and also makes them quite exceptional leaders. You know, they're just great at just saying where to direct things, and you go, okay, they seem to know exactly what they're talking about. I'll follow. they're I suppose the fundamental archetype with Leo is creative self-actualization. Don't you love that? Creative self-actualization. And this is the ability to be able to create something, to manifest something. And there's a lot of creative talent within the Leo archetype. We also see Leo with what I'm going to call a need to be witnessed. a need to be noticed, a need to be seen. I mean, you know, with a rulership of the sun, the center of our solar system, that's large, shines brightly, and kind of creates and sustains life. Leo kind of carries that sovereignty and center of its own world disposition in a very, very positive sense. We'll find that, you know, that Leoine energy is heart-centered, leads from the heart, has a passion, can lead, but with I suppose a healthy recognition that there's, you know, a lot of other people as well that have a role to play. And I say role to play because, you know, Leo also has that association of drama, being very larger than life, being very having a large presence and very much a stage presence, being able to act or perform. Which kind of leads me into some of the shadow side in relation to that. So, you know, there's having a strong sense of presence, there's being very central and recognizing our leadership qualities and being able to lead in a healthy sense. There can also be a very prominent lead for consistent validation, or a look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, being very sensitive to attention. So, you know, we may find maybe that attention wasn't given in kind of the childhood years. That hasn't disappeared. There's still a need for this very constant validation, and there can be a sense of kind of acting out or creating more drama to gain that validation. There can also be kind of a performing dramatically at the expense of being authentic and expressing creatively. And kind of with a link to that, to kind of craving the applause that happens. These can be like the jokers in the classroom that need people to notice and laugh at them. Also, given that that Leo, you know, the rulership of Leo also covers children. So love affairs, but love making, bringing children, so creating children, bringing them into the world. And there can be an over-identification with that child aspect. So yes, it's, you know, it's wonderful to have a joy and a sense of fun and be playful in our lives, but to recognize that, you know, when we were adults, we can't necessarily be children with zero responsibility, especially for our own actions, you know. So it's a very balanced kind of way of identifying with fun and creating fun, but also, you know, understanding that the kind of container of that, if I can explain that well. So during this absolutely amazing solar eclipse, you know, with solar eclipses, the energy is always a lot more tangible. It's definitely more emphasized, and so we can feel it that a little bit more. With this particular solar eclipse, it's in a very wide conjunction to the South Node, the collective South Node, which is in the sign of Leo, and it's just switched there. It's at 29 degrees, so it's at the anaretic point as well, which always amplifies the sign it's in anyhow. So it's quite a lot of Leo energy. We've got it in a trine to Saturn, which is at 14 degrees of Aries. So I call this, so going back to my story about my friend that says, I don't want to adult today. Well, Saturn says, it's kind of time to adult. You know, we have to grow up. We have to take some responsibility here. And, you know, whatever we're doing that's very Leo, whether that be around about children or around about what we're leading, is to appreciate that, you know, we can have fun, but we have to have structure with that fun. We can have love, but that love may not be as short-termers we might typically associate it with Leo or the fifth house, which would be more about love affairs and falling in love, that kind of real fun, joyful stage before we tend to commit. But Saturn gives us that dimension of long-term, of commitment, of this isn't just fun, it's kind of serious at the same time. I think of this aspect as kind of just being able to have the joy in the moment, be present in the moment, kind of tease each other, but always feel that way. So be married and always feel that way. Having this Saturn and Aries trine to the solar eclipse kind of gives it that additional stability, almost like that container and this stronger foundation, and a bit of a long-term commitment to some kind of goal. So in Leo, that could be a relationship, a very loving relationship. That could be something that is being creative. That could be music, as an example, or perhaps setting up a band. That could be something in relation to children, maybe thinking of having children or spending more time with the children. But more in a view to balancing that sense of fun and play with something that, I mean, as Saturn is in the sign of Aries, and Aries would be typically very me first and acting on instinct and maybe a little more fiery or fighty. Saturn would kind of dampen some of that natural urge. So there'd still be the fire present, but it would be restrained, a little bit more restrained, a bit more caution around it, a bit more, contemplation around it, about any kind of action. So just to keep that in mind too. And then I want to talk a little bit about this very fascinating wedge pattern. So this wedge pattern is made up of 3 planets. 2 of the planets are in opposition to each other. So that's Venus in Libra is opposite to Neptune in Aries. And then each one of them makes a trine. So Venus is trine to Uranus, and then Neptune is sextile to Uranus. So you've got this triangle going on. And so we've got in the opposition, we've got some tension. Perhaps that could be 2 things pulling in different directions, or especially with Venus as it's in its own sign of Libra, projection. And I think you can find this with oppositions anyway. It can be something causing tension that's coming in from the outside, or it can be something that involves somebody else. But I think with Venus and Libra as well, it's probably going to include more somebody else. But also it does suggest there could be a tendency for a projected vision. And with Venus being opposite to Neptune, it can be I'm projecting my ideal partner onto somebody else, and eventually there's going to be a disillusionment, an impending realization that the other person is far from ideal, because really ideals don't, I'm going to go like this, they don't really exist. I think a friend once said to me, give me your list of what you look for in a guy, and he laughed and he said, yeah, you're looking for a unicorn, which is his version of saying, yeah, you're looking for this ideal, but no one's really that, and they're not. And there is a danger obviously with Venus and Neptune that we can project our ideal onto somebody else and then kind of get a little bit of a wake-up call when we realize that actually they're not that. On the flip side of that, Neptune and Venus have a relationship in terms of love. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, it's a higher vibration, and so it thinking of the Whitney Houston song "Show Me a Higher Love," Neptune is that higher love. It's that unconditional love. And that's no easy place for anyone to get to, see someone fully, accept who they are fully, and say, I love them unconditionally. I know they're not perfect. Obviously, tempering that with not just seeing what we want to see and having kind of blurry lines or boundaries pushed, leading to potential kind of abusive situations. So, it requires a lot of awareness. You can get to that point, but you need to be very aware and also grounded in it. So with this aspect, we then have the trine between Venus and Uranus, and then obviously a sextile between Neptune and Uranus. And so Uranus becomes the apex, or the kind of anchor planet. And Uranus has been involved in a ton of these new and full moons of late. So it just makes sense that it's very involved in this one as well. I called today's blog post, and I've got the link of it below, fast love. And I think with Uranus, fast love is something that can definitely happen. With Uranus, things tend to happen quite suddenly or shockingly or surprisingly. Like, I didn't know I'd find you this attractive, or I didn't think I was going to fall in love with you within a week kind of way. It really has a tendency to electrify the body, so that kind of, when we say we vibe the same or we have chemistry together, that's really Uranus's energy at work. And obviously with Neptune there's a little bit of rose-tinted glasses going on too. You kind of feel more adoring and more devoted. So we do really need something to really ground this. I mean, Uranus is in Gemini, it's in an air sign. Venus is in Libra, it's an air sign. Neptune's in Aries, it's in a fire sign, but there's no earth there and there's no real water there either. And it's obviously quite fiery with the new moon too. So it doesn't really have that grounding aspect of it. And especially with Uranus, like, the electricity kind of stays in the body, in the nervous system. So it does need to be grounded one way or another. So what I want to do, and I know I've made this a little bit of a shorter video, is I want to just leave you with a few questions in preparation for this new moon. There are a ton of questions on the blog post you're welcome to read, and then a ritual as well, and there's another couple of rituals on the blog post too. So some of the questions. So what part of me is asking to be seen? What do I want to create in my life? And where do I perform instead of express? 3 brilliant questions. As I say, do read some of the others. I think they can be quite nice for a little guidance and just inner thought. And with the rituals, so this one is kind of the solar self ritual. And you're really just going to take a candle. Ideally, you'd want that candle to be yellow or gold. You could kind of also go with a red as well. And to be able to sit in front of the mirror and gaze at yourself in a very accepting and non-judgmental way, and saying aloud, ideally aloud, I allow myself to be seen. And I want you to write down maybe 3 qualities you want to really embody, 3 qualities you want to be seen and you want to be known. Or you can put them digitally in your phone, but do kind of bring them out, kind of create them and put them there in some kind of physical way. So thank you so much for listening. All of the links I've mentioned are below. I will be back in a couple of weeks. Please do feel free to come find me on TikTok or Instagram. I'm also on Facebook too. I'm always happy to have a chatter with people. It's also a bit more serious and a little bit more security focused.